Never give in, never give in, never, 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 in nothing great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. He spoke those words at Harrow in 1941, the school he'd once struggled through as a boy, now returning as a wartime prime minister to tell young men what it meant to endure when the world was breaking apart. And notice the razor's edge in that line, not never give in from sheer stubbornness, not because pride demands it. The exception is deliberate and moral, except to convictions of honor and good sense. In other words, hold the line when it matters, and only yield when principle or wisdom commands. That's not bravado. That's leadership under fire. Picture the moment. The Blitz was carving fire across London skies. Every night brought sirens, smoke, and the ache of not knowing who would live to see morning. It wasn't a poster on a dorm wall. It was a call to breathe through the dust and keep moving. But imagine if he'd chosen a softer sentence. Imagine if he'd said, "We'll try our best." The country needed steel, not soothing. And that's the first lesson here. In the heat of life's bombardment, you don't whisper hope. You forge it. What he meant then still matters now. Because your version of the Blitz shows up as layoffs, a diagnosis, a betrayal from someone you trusted, a project collapsing at the last hour. There's a night when the sirens go off in your head, and you wonder if anything you've built will make it to morning. It's tempting to bow to panic or to pride, but Churchill's rule slices through both. Don't give in to fear, and don't give in to your ego. Give in only to honor, only to good sense. That's the rubric when everything breaks. A year earlier, he walked into the House of Commons with almost no time, no allies, and a nation in retreat, and gave words that shook people awake. "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't pretend the cost would be light. He named it. He put the tally of pain on the table, and then asked people to pay it. Why? Because when stakes are life and death, false comfort is betrayal. Truth, even when it stings, is mercy. How does that land in your world? When your team is up against impossible deadlines, when your family is knotted by a hard season, when your own mind feels like occupied territory, say the cost plainly. Name the toil you'll need. Spell out the sweat. Sometimes leadership is walking into a room where everyone wants the easy road and saying, "We go the hard way because it's the right way, and here's why." But imagine if you tried it the other way. Disguise the pain, cross your fingers, and hope. That's how trust dissolves. Honesty binds people to the mission. Illusion breaks them apart. Now, there was a red label that Churchill loved to slap on memos. 2 words. A sentence that moved paperwork faster than fear. Action, this day. In those words there's a habit. A refusal to court paralysis by analysis. The war room was a maze of maps and minutes, but that stamp kept the oxygen flowing. Decisions now. Not next week. Not after 3 more meetings. Not when perfection arrives. Action. This day. Translate it to your crisis. That call you keep postponing. That plan you keep daydreaming about instead of drafting. That apology you owe. That boundary you need to set. What if you ran your life with a red stamp? What if action this day was the way you cut the knot and moved the line forward? We romanticize courage, but often it's just speed. It's deciding when others delay. It's the email you send today, not the masterpiece you never write. And yet, speed without meaning can turn reckless. So we pivot to perhaps the darkest sea of those months, Dunkirk. A retreat so massive it could have broken the spine of a country. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers on a beach, backs to the water, enemy closing in. A miracle evacuation. And days later he stood, voice steady, and forged a vow out of ash. We shall never surrender. Not because surrender wasn't possible, it was, but because surrender would have rotted the soul. Even in retreat, he framed it as a rally. The story he told was not, "We barely escaped." It was, "We will fight from the beaches to the streets to the fields everywhere, and we are not finished." What story are you telling about your setbacks? When you lose a client, is it the beginning of your end or the birth of your new strategy? When your heart gets broken, is it proof you shouldn't care or proof you're brave enough to love again? But imagine if you treated your Dunkirk like your obituary. That's how despair colonizes you. Instead, do what he did. Salvage what you can, honor what you lost, and write the next chapter with a harder pen. Listen to the cadence that carried a nation. Just weeks after Dunkirk, he closed a speech with a line that still hums like a low drum. This was their finest hour. The line is not naive. It doesn't deny the danger. It reframes the day. Finest doesn't mean easiest. It means noblest. It means the hour you choose to stand, tired but unbroken. You can do that with any hour in front of you. Choose the finest one. Quick pause while we're in the thick of it. Which Churchill line is cutting through your noise tonight, and why? Drop it in the comments. If this is helping you lead under fire, hit like and subscribe so we keep building this courage together, week by week. Back to the map. There's another phrase you won't see on statues, but it guided him through drudgery and dread. KBO, keep buggering on. Crude? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. It's the opposite of romanticized bravery. It's the elite skill of not stopping. The skill of showing up on the days you'd rather hide. In your job, it looks like opening the laptop when your head is a fog. In your family, it looks like attending the hard conversation instead of ghosting it. In your health, it looks like walking for 10 minutes when the gym feels like Everest. Courage in practice is a string of unglamorous decisions, but even he needed correction. There's a private moment, less famous, just as instructive. In 1940, with the war ripping days into pieces, Clementine, his wife, his compass when his voice ran hot, wrote a candid letter telling him to be kinder to the people serving alongside him. She saw the sharp edges, the frayed patience, the bark that can come when the burden is heavy and time is short. That letter pulled him back toward humanity. Leadership isn't just iron. It's heat-controlled. It's fire that warms, not fire that scorches your own team. So if you've been snappish, if your stress has been spilling onto people who don't deserve it, treat Clementine's note as your warning flare. Courage without courtesy breaks morale. You can carry dread on your back and still speak with measured respect. But imagine if you confused urgency with permission to wound. You'd win the battle and lose the room. That's not victory, that's corrosion. Earlier than the bombs, before the smoke, he spent years shouting into the wind that danger was rising. Many didn't want to hear it. Complacency is warm, warnings are cold. In his memoir, surveying those years, he wrote a damning sentence. The malice of the wicked was reinforced by the weakness of the virtuous. Think about that. Wickedness spreads not only through aggressive harm, but through timid hesitation. Evil moves when good people look away. At work, that's when you let the bully set the tone. In your personal life, that's when you rationalize the habit that's unraveling you. Silence is a vote. So what does this mean when you're standing at your own crossroads? It means name the threat. It means say the quiet thing out loud. If the project is off course, don't bury the sign. If your finances are bleeding, stop the bleed before you argue about the decor. If your relationship is drifting, call it drifting and grab the rope. What he meant then still matters now. You disarm darkness by refusing to pretend it's a shadow. You point at it and you move. And still, the paradox remains. How do you balance steel and sense? The Harrow line gives you the hinge. Never give in, except to honor and good sense. You don't fold because you're tired. You fold if principles demand another route. You don't cling to a failing plan out of ego. You change because the mission matters more than your pride. He did it too. When Gallipoli broke him, he didn't vanish. He learned. He served at the front. He rebuilt. Failure didn't get to write his last line. It only edited his next chapter. But imagine if you treated failure as final. Imagine if you let one collapsed venture define your name. How many finest hours would you never see? That's the quiet theft of despair. It doesn't just steal your current day, it steals the hours you were born to live. When the pressure climbs, return to the basics. Name the cost. Stamp the day, frame the setback, choose the finest hour, and keep moving. There's one more image I want you to hold. Not the cigar, not the V sign, it's the desk. Papers stacked, ink drying, a lamp burning too late. The map pins change, the deadlines change, the faces change, but the ritual remains. Sit down, see clearly, decide, then act. Not perfectly, decisively. If you wait for the clouds to part, you never march. If you wait until the fear goes away, you never speak. And when you speak, make it true. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Say your version out loud. This project will be rough. The next 6 months will be harder than we want. We will have to stretch, and yes, we will be tired. Truth doesn't shrink your team. It removes illusions that would sabotage them anyway. It turns spectators into participants. It turns hands into fists. You'll notice one more pattern in his voice. It was never just about surviving. It was about deserving the story history tells. This was their finest hour. That sentence is not a time machine. It's an instruction manual. Live so that the hour you're in becomes worthy of that label. If you're in the trenches of grief, make kindness your finest hour. If you're building something from nothing, make consistency your finest hour. If you're carrying people through change, make clarity your finest hour. The line is less about them and more about you. So here's the rule when your world cracks and the noise is loud. Do not give in to panic. Do not give in to pride. Give in only to honor and good sense. Tell the truth, even when it hurts. Stamp urgency on your day. Name your retreat without surrendering your soul. Protect your team with courtesy. Call threats by their names. And then, keep going. 1 mile, 1 memo, 1 conversation. Keep going until the hour becomes finest by the way you carried it. If he were here with you, in your dim office at midnight, he wouldn't hand you comfort. He'd hand you courage. He'd lean in and lower his voice. He'd say, never give in except to honor and good sense. He'd tap the desk with a knuckle. Action this day. He'd point to the door. The world outside is not softer, but you are stronger. And then, with that sideways half-smile, he'd leave you with the only benediction that earned him history. We shall never surrender. This is your hour. Make it worthy of the name.